Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a long-awaited, actually, TV show wrap-up review. This time, we are focusing on all the TV shows of worthy note of some description that I watched during October, November, and December of last year. So let's kick it off with October. So I watched Marvel's What If Season 1 and I gave that a 5 out of 5 stars. This is a great series that sees one event change that has a knock-on sort of domino effect on the Marvel stories that we all know and love. I loved T'Challa as Star-Lord. That was an episode that was one of my favourites. It gave me like these Ocean's 11 vibes and it was super funny. My most favourite episode, I'd say, though, has to be the Doctor Strange one. It explored different avenues of how Strange reacted to grief as his learning of sorcery was sparked by a different tragic event. That definitely gave me a lot of things to think about and I really liked that one. I love how the end scenes are all really atmospheric and slightly unsettling in tone, but overall this was definitely an epic one. I loved how each episode was entirely its own thing but did end up connecting in the end. I've never felt so invested. I absolutely loved it and I'm looking forward to a season 2. After this I watched Britney VS Spears, which I gave a 3 out of 5 stars, and this was a documentary on Netflix. I'm really not sure why they decided to use that title because it makes it seem like she really is fighting herself and like they're favouring the negativity around her, pushing that she's unstable, which I didn't feel was a very wise choice for this documentary and what they wanted to say. Anyway, with the massive revival of the Free Britney movement back around this time, back into the mainstream media, owing to her lack of power and control over the toxic conservatorship that she had, it's being discussed again. You know, documentaries are once again coming out. This was pretty interesting, I must say, and it definitely helped to have clips of the events included so I could understand the timeline a little bit better. But it didn't add anything new and wasn't delivered in a completely original way or anything like that. That had me blown away, unfortunately. It delivered the information concisely and in one place, but in terms of creativity or anything like that, it was just meh, basic, you know. After that, I finished up a series called Clique, and this was season 1, which I gave a 3.5 stars, and it originally aired on the BBC. I checked it out on Netflix though. So it's about a young girl who goes to uni and she drifts away from her childhood best friend who begins to hang out with a sinister group of girls at this university. It was weird to place the age range as it has a lot of cringe that you'd find on like regular CBBC, but it followed older characters doing older things. So it was a little bit like jarring to kind of figure out like the vibe and the target audience here. I thought it'd be more than it was, to be honest, like really grasping onto that sinister girls aspect, but it wasn't as airy in the way that I was expecting, but much more in a psychological and kind of like exploitative way. It was quite interesting actually, and the way some of the characters carried this elegant beauty, this unattainable just an aura about them whilst hiding all these dark secrets was quite well done. It didn't really play out how I was thinking it would, not that I was expecting anything in particular, but the ending did feel really random, and when that was revealed it kind of threw me out any logical sense the rest of the plot may have had. The audio for this part went super weird, so I'm not sure what happened there, but afterwards I watched Squid Game like so many people did around this time, so I won't go too much into depth because I don't want to go over everything that has already been said, but basically glad I really bought into the hype with this one. It was strange and airy and gruesome and I really enjoyed it. The storyline followed a questionable character but with a heart of gold buried deep. It had me laughing, it had me cringing and crying, and it delivered this unique plot very well in my opinion. So for all of that, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. So it doesn't look like I watched or finished anything in November. So with that, we'll go straight into December. And the first thing I watched in December, going back to Marvel, was Hawkeye, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. This was very entertaining. I absolutely loved the diversity in terms of disability, like even the dog, ethnicity, and women in power. I do feel like they may have made it a bit dated, strictly making the setting Christmas themed. But I loved the fashion in this. I loved, you know, watching it around that time. What another fabulous Marvel show. They really do feel like little movies. Next up, Tiger King season 2. Oh wow, okay, so I gave this one a 4 stars. This was so distressing and I think it showed the truth of these sketchy people in a much more serious light, especially when you compare it to Tiger King season 1, which is kind of the almost comical, more light-hearted, silly vibe that we needed in the first lockdown. But yeah, the first season was what we needed, a sort of ridiculous underworld of big cat trading, crazy murder conspiracies. But this follow-up felt more like it was a serious investigation, especially with all the animals and how they were treated there. It's absolutely awful how these zoos operate and how the animals are treated. Completely disgusting, but the way the documentary went about it was very good, I feel. It had a little bit of more educational value at the end in regards to conservation. Not anywhere near enough on this to get the point across, but, you know, it was there. And it was beautiful getting to see some of the animals roaming about in a much more naturalistic environment at the end. And finally, keeping with the Tiger King theme, I watched the Doc Antle story, which I gave a 4 stars. Going into the allegations of Doc Antle's grooming and abuse that he did from the women who experienced it, and these girls were awfully young, like when they first came into his, like, I don't even know what it is, it's cult. I feel like this was pretty well documented, but the content, of course, was disturbing and disgusting, and it makes me wonder how this has been allowed to happen and go on for so long. Anyway, that is it for this review. Let me know what you guys think. And yeah, if you've watched any of these yourself, I'd be glad to hear your thoughts and opinions. Anyway, I will catch you in another video soon. Bye!